Ladies and gentlemen, another special moment in our observance every year will come now as our installation historian, Mr. Gus Person, will present a soldier's historical timeline.
Good morning. Since the birth of the Army in June 1775, soldiers have defended freedom and are fighting on behalf of the American people all over the world. Today's program and historical timeline features living historians who portray soldiers since the Army's birth. The living historians you will see represent 4 centuries of service to the nation. They portray soldiers on campaign in full marching or combat order. Their uniforms, equipment, and weapons are original items or reproductions of those used by the Army since 1775. First living historian is a soldier of the 1st Virginia Regiment during the American War of Independence. The 1st Virginia Regiment was created by the Virginia Convention in July 1775. In February 1776, the regiment was transferred into the Continental Army. After fighting at the battles of Trenton, Princeton, and Germantown, the regiment suffered with fellow patriots at Valley Forge during the severe winter of 1778. In June 1778, the regiment fought at the Battle of Monmouth in New Jersey, and then marched south to participate in the Siege of Charleston, South Carolina, in May of 1780, where 5 companies of this regiment were captured by the British when the surrounded American forces were forced to surrender. Our soldier wears the regimental coat of dark blue faced with red, collar, lapels, and cuffs, per the 1779 uniform regulations, and worn by Continental line troops from Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. His tricorn hat is cocked over his left eye so that it would not be knocked off while performing the manual of arms. Extra clothing and personal items are carried in a knapsack, worn by a belt over the right shoulder. His ammunition is carried in a new model cartridge box, worn on a sling over the left shoulder. He is armed with the muzzle-loading Shortland flintlock musket, the famous British Brown Bess, and a bayonet. The next soldier, in the 2nd century of the Army's history, represents a private of the 4th United States Infantry during the Civil War. Ulysses S. Grant served in this regiment as a young officer during the Mexican War and the early 1850s on the West Coast. Company H of this regiment served as his headquarters guard during his service as General-in-Chief of the Army during the campaign in Virginia in 1864 through 1865. For most of that conflict, the regular infantry regiments served in 2 brigades of the 2nd Division of the 5th Army Corps. The white Maltese cross badge on the crown of his forage cap indicates that unit, and those badges, first introduced in March 1863, were the origin of the unit patches that all modern soldiers wear on their shoulders today. Extra clothing and personal items are carried in the model 1853 knapsack. The blanket is rolled and strapped on top. He carries his basic load of 40 rounds of ammunition in his cartridge box for the muzzle-loading model 1861 Springfield rifle musket. The next soldier is a sergeant of the 51st Engineer Combat Battalion. This unit served in the 1st United States Army in the European Theater of Operations during World War II. The battalion departed from the Hampton Roads port of embarkation in November of 1942. Arriving in Algeria, they were soon shipped to England. The battalion landed in France on D-Day +20 and distinguished itself during the Battle of the Bulge, for which it was awarded a Presidential Unit Citation for the winter battle of 1944 through 45. And within hours of the capture of the Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen on 7 March 1945, the battalion erected a 298-foot-long pontoon bridge across the Rhine River. Our soldier wears the Model 1941 fatigue uniform with a modified Model 1910 equipment and Model 1923 cartridge belt. This web equipment was poorly designed, and in order to get anything from the backpack the entire equipment had to be taken off. And notice this. A soldier also wears the M1 steel helmet with an NCO's bar designation on the rear of the helmet. The soldier is armed with the M1 Garand rifle, the only semi-automatic shoulder weapon in general service among the world's armies. The M1 was loaded with an en-bloc clip of 8 .30 caliber rounds, and General George Patton once described this rifle as, I quote, "the best battle implement ever devised," unquote. Our last sergeant, currently assigned at Fort Belvoir to the DeWitt Army Healthcare Network, is a product of the NCO educational system. Implemented in 1971 and mirroring the officer education system, it has produced the best trained and motivated NCOs of all the world's armies. In October 2001, the Army commenced operations in Afghanistan. Then in March 2003, the Army marched north to Baghdad. On both occasions, the Army wore the second pattern desert camouflage uniform. That uniform was replaced in 2004 by the current Army combat uniform, the DCU, the ACU, excuse me, in the distinctive gray-green pixel pattern and worn by members of the Garrison Color Guard here on the steps. In February 2010, Secretary of the Army John McHugh announced that the Army would provide uniforms in the multicam pattern to soldiers deploying to Afghanistan, where it is known as the Operation Enduring Freedom camouflage pattern. Soldiers wear this uniform with brand new mountain boots. Holsters, ammunition and equipment pouches, water supply systems, and a variety of other pouches can be carried in different positions on the individual protective vest. His NCO rank is worn centered on his breast. Note the streamlined advanced combat helmet, which has replaced the original Kevlar helmet. Our Sergeant E5 served in Afghanistan in 2007 through 2008 as a combat medic in the 1st Battalion, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, and wears the combat service patch of the 82nd Airborne Division on his right shoulder pocket. He also wears a tactical medical vest and leg bag used to treat patients on the battlefield. With the main mission in medical care being to stop the life-threatening loss of blood, each soldier also carries an improved first aid kit, an IFAC, for self-aid and buddy aid. Each IFAC carries a tourniquet, airway support, bandages, and tape for the soldier, buddy, or medic to use immediately to treat life-threatening injuries. Our soldier is also armed with the M4 carbine, the modification of the M16 assault rifle. Ladies and gentlemen, the living historians will remain after today's ceremony. I invite you to talk to them. They will be happy to discuss their unit's history and their weapons, equipment, and uniforms with you. Soldiers, shoulder up. Present up. Shoulder up. Right, hey. Forward, part.
Thank you, Gus. Ladies and gentlemen, please, another round of applause for Mr. Gus Person and our living historian. Ladies and gentlemen, the journals of the Second Continental Congress of June 14, 1775 reflect a simple but determined commitment to form the Army that would take us to our independence. At this time, I ask that Master Sergeant Joel Fix and Specialist Seth Field please join me here at the podium. Both our soldiers are assigned to our headquarters battalion, United States Army Garrison. Master Sergeant Fix will now read the order of the Continental Congress that established the Army on June 14, 1775.
Resolved that 6 companies of expert riflemen be immediately raised in Pennsylvania, 2 in Maryland, and 2 in Virginia. That each company consists of a captain, 3 lieutenants, 4 sergeants, 4 corporals, a drummer, 4 trumpeters, and 68 privates. That each company, as soon as completed, shall march and join the Army near Boston, to be there employed as light infantry under the command of the chief officer in that Army.
That resolution also set forth the Army's first pay chart, to be read this morning by Specialist Field.
That the pay of officers and privates be as follows. A captain shall receive $20 per month. A lieutenant, $13 1/3. A sergeant, $8. A corporal, $7 1/13. A trumpeter or drummer, $7 1/3. A private, $6. Each shall furnish their own arms and clothes.
The last paragraph of the resolution prescribed the enlistment process and reflected the commitment of the individual to the great and honorable duty of service to the nation. Thank you, Master Sergeant Fix and Specialist Field. Ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude here this morning, we need to take a moment to thank all those who helped us make today's event the special event that it was. First, the soldiers of our headquarters battalion, U.S. Army Garrison, who form our color guard. The Fairfax Lee chapter of the Association of the United States Army provided the cakes, which were made by our own Fort Belvoir Commissary Bakery. The USO and the Fort Belvoir Credit Union donated bottled water and refreshments. Our Directorate of Family and Morale, Welfare and Recreation sponsored today's event with the flags for us to have and to wave this morning. We also thank the MWR for the picnic-style meal of hot dogs and other refreshments we're about to enjoy after the ceremony's over. And I also want to thank the staffs of our Visual Information Support Center, the Directorate of Logistics, Directorate of Public Works, the DETMIS, the DES, the Public Affairs Office, and the 12th Aviation Battalion here at Fort Belvoir for their work in pulling together this morning's ceremony. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please rise and join us for the playing of It's a Grand Old Flag and the singing of the Army song.